Hey gals and guys, it's your host Phil Larson, and this is your motivational high five on discipline. Let's do this. Welcome back to a new year and a new episode. I first want to give a shout out to Samantha Burleson, who on Christmas became a patron at $5 to join the Super High Five Club, where she has access to my mini podcast for my Patreon supporters. And she gets her shout out and all the details in an email. So Samantha, if you haven't checked your email, check that. If you are interested in supporting the podcast in this way, go to patreon.com/YMH5, the number 5, patreon.com/YMH5. And there's a $1 a month or a $5 a month level that you can do to get different rewards, and it really does go a long way. Thank you. I want to get right into this episode on discipline. If you're like me, discipline as a positive quality is relatively new. We got negative messages of discipline as a kid, and for some people it was straight up abusive. I'm grateful, and in a lot of ways, in a lot of stories I've heard, I'm very, very lucky that I was not abused, but I was such a rule follower as a kid, and I can find myself struggling with that still. The need to follow a rule and to perform and to get other people's approval. But that was totally me as a kid, and I was terrified of being disciplined. I think my first detention was because I didn't color something in as part of my homework in elementary school. And I remember I had to call my mom and say, hey, you need to come pick me up later because I have detention after school. And I remember calling her and crying. I hated to be disciplined. Absolutely hated it. I remember even like committing a penalty in sports I saw as bad, and the whole strategy of fouling someone near the end of the game in basketball was kind of a hard thing for my mind to grasp right away. Why would I do this bad thing as part of a good strategy? So here I was, a rule follower who hated discipline, and I find out now that is because I really misunderstood discipline and what it is and how it could help me be and achieve and all these things. And now today, as an adult who is a self-employed business owner, I'm finding that discipline is really required to test and play with and discover the limitations of the rules. As well as I'm finding discipline enforces and adds structures and even elevates results that can only exist because the rules exist. And here's a little bit of what I mean, because that was a little confusing, but let me explain it this way in a more simplified example. A lot of what I do is create background music. And one of the things that the rise of Spotify and streaming services have done is reintroduced music into our lives as utility, basically as background music, as something that is relaxing in the background while someone works or while someone even plays games. And one of those things that people do, they like to have these ambient playlists in the background while they're playing Dungeons and Dragons, for example. And there's these different themed playlists. I may be blowing your mind a little bit, maybe not. Maybe you're aware, but one playlist that I found that was very, very popular, lots of followers, lots of monthly streams, it's a playlist called Medieval Ambient. And I'm guessing probably behind a D&D type of game or some sort of like role-playing outing with friends or whatever. But a lot of this stuff is just like themed playlist to be in the background. And so I reached out to the curator. I found him online and was able to reach out to him. And I asked him to consider a couple tracks that I thought might fit. And as I listened to the playlist, I was like, I don't know if they'll fit, but I'll send them to him anyway. I've got nothing to lose. And this is what he had to say about the tracks. And bear with me a little bit. It'll make sense. He said, I gave the tracks a listen, and they're definitely right up my alley on the ambient side. However, for medieval ambient, I try to keep the vibe true to its historical theme, which is true. I listened through his playlist and I was like, oh, there's a lot of like lutes and harpsichords and stuff like that in here. So he says, unfortunately, the sound is too modern to properly fit the playlist. There's only so much modern like stuff the playlist can handle without diverting from the theme. Good stuff nonetheless. So it goes back a little bit. What I said is I'm finding discipline is required to test and play with and discover the limitations of the rules, as well as enforce and add structure and elevate results that can only exist because the rules exist. So like the limitations that exist that require discipline to play within those limitations are important, in this scenario. And the best thing that I can do to take advantage of discipline is by not letting the limitations that exist and restrict affect me personally. Because he wasn't saying my music was bad. No, he was saying it was actually very good, just not right, not the right kind of music. And discipline will help me learn to play within the boundaries of medieval instruments, like the lute or the harpsichord. So when discipline is required, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. No, in fact, it's a very good thing. It informs things. It's information. It's learning about what can and can't be done. And a quote from Robert Millikan says this about Thomas Edison, for example. After 8,000 unsuccessful trials on a nickel-iron storage battery, Thomas Edison said, well, at least we know 8,000 things that won't work. You see, Thomas Edison worked eagerly to discover the battery. He looked at his unsuccessful attempts not as failures, but as information. He was disciplined. 8,000 attempts. What some may see as failures, he turned into successes, even when all those times he didn't achieve the results that he wanted. This is the power of discipline. And this informs the quote by actress Julie Andrews that she so famously said. The quote is this: some people regard discipline as a chore. For me, it is a kind of order that sets me free to fly. I used to think order was bad, and I think that was a little bit of an immature mindset, because when there's order, then it suppresses creativity, and I'm finding that is not true. I've been inspired by some random curator on a very successful playlist to write music within an order, medieval music style, which is new to me. I haven't done much of. So I'm kind of interested in that. But he offered some very good feedback, and I'm finding this information not as a failure, not as something to take personal, but something to be informed by, something to elevate me into new decisions and making good disciplinary moves on my part with my business and everything like that. So where in your life can discipline be healthy? Where do you need help setting some limitations? A word that often comes up is accountability, and in particular with personal development. That is a form of discipline. That's very good. And as we allow people into our lives, it's a very hard thing. We become more disciplined, and being disciplined is healthy. Allows us to make healthy strides towards a better us, towards a better you. So I guess I would just say welcome that into your life. And at the end of every episode, as you know, we invite a form of discipline, which is a positive mantra or self-talk, saying or affirmation into our lives. And it is a discipline to do it. Some people feel silly doing it. Some people have a hard time looking at themselves and saying something positive. And I have a hard time doing that even. But it is an act of discipline that will allow us to interact with the chemistry of our brains, which research tells us, neuroscience tells us, that we can change the paths, change the electricity flow in our brains and begin to tell us new stories, and that we are not too old to ever do that. No, we can always invite new narratives into our lives, and we begin to tell a new story. And then that informs and helps us to live out a new story as well. So will you join me in this discipline? At the end of this episode, will you find a reflection of yourself right now? Maybe in a mirror or a front-facing camera on your phone? Find yourself. Look into yourself. Take this seriously. That's part of discipline. And when you got that reflection of yourself, you're beautiful, unique, interesting, captivating reflection. Will you say this to yourself? Today, I welcome discipline not as failure, but as information for growth. Just last week, my wife informed me of a Facebook memory that came up that my podcast was launched 4 years ago that day. Coming along this way of 102 episodes, over 1 million downloads, takes some discipline. And I don't know that I would have called it that at that time years ago. But what discipline does is it builds a portfolio. And I don't know if you remember, but I was feeling a little bit like an imposter when I started. I think the thing that really helps overcome imposter syndrome, I mean, there's other things, other self-development things too, but it is building a portfolio. And in order to do that, it really does take a lot of discipline. Just straight up focus, sit down, grind it out, get rid of distractions, do what you need to do, find out the hacks that work for you in your mind in order for you to keep a long enough attention on something and a long enough passion on something to create something. This is the benefits and the discipline that I think Julie Andrews was talking about that allows her the freedom to fly. It's the order that is helpful. It's a helpful order. So we're all different. We need to find that for ourselves. How does discipline look like? What does it look like for you? How does it look for you? Because as you know, and I say this every episode, guys, it doesn't matter what I say because I'm just some dude. You don't know me. Well, some of you do, but not everyone knows me or really cares to know me. But if you don't do the work, nothing will change. Nothing will change. Friends, it starts with you. Hey, surprise, it's Phil. I've been real cautious about doing any sort of sponsorship on this podcast since it is so short and it is a bit of a hobby for me, but I found out that I can be an affiliate of the stock library that I sell my music tracks on to be licensed for video projects. And if you're a creator, it's not just audio. You're going to want to get in on Envato Elements because for $16.50 a month, that's it, $16.50, you have access to over 7,000 fonts, 15,000 vectors, 17,000 video templates, like After Effects and all that. You got hundreds of thousands of audio, almost 1 million photos to choose from. You got icons, logos, motion graphics. I mean, there's everything. And that's what sets this subscription service, this library, apart from all other libraries. Because I know there are audio libraries out there that are $20 a month, unlimited downloads of audio. Well, this has got audio. It's got fonts, guys. It's got logos, video templates. It's got all these things. I wouldn't be sharing this if I didn't think this was the best thing. It can be kind of your secret go-to, your secret weapon, if you will, if you're a creator and if you need to license assets and things for your projects. This is just a great thing. Envato Elements. I created a URL for ease of access for you. If you go to supportwithelements.com, that'll take you to Envato Elements with my referral link, and you sign up from there. That's a great and easy way to support your motivational high five. And I'm just going to be very upfront with you. If you sign up for a year membership, the podcast gets $120. If you sign up as a monthly subscriber, the podcast gets $60. It's really a deal, an amazing deal. And especially if you're looking for something like this, maybe you drop the membership that you have that's really only limited to stock photography or stock audio, and you go for this all-encompassing Envato Elements subscription. Again, that's supportwithelements.com. So right from that URL, sign up. And if you want to see and have easy access to all the ways you can support the podcast, just go to phillarson.net/support, and you will see a button with this link as well as the Patreon link that I talked about at the top of the show. So again, that's phillarson.net/support. And just the direct links are, again, supportwithelements.com or patreon.com/YMH5. Okay, that's enough. Thank you. Bye-bye.